Pamagat po ng ating Sabbath School lesson, lesson number 5 is, Neither do I condemn thee. Ito po yung binitawang salita ni Jesus Christ doon sa isang babae na nahuli sa pangangalon niya. Tapos may idinagdag siya na sinabi, Go and sin no more. Ang isang napakaganda na lesson na dapat na tandaan natin, na nais ng Diyos na malaman natin, dito sa ating present lesson ngayon, matatagpuan sa Desire of Ages, page 462. Christian love is slow to censure, quick to discern penitence, ready to forgive, to encourage, to set the wanderer in the path of holiness, and to stay his feet therein. Yan po ang napakagandang lesson na dapat na matutunan natin at may isakabuhayan. Tayo po bilang mga Kristiyano ay dapat slow to censure. Hindi yung mabilis magpuna, kundi dapat banaya tayong magpuna. Pero mabilis sana tayong makadiscern ng penitence. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng penitence? Pagsisisi. Banayad tayo sa pagsensure, pero quick to discern penitence. And then, ano pa? Number 3, ready to forgive. Yan po, dapat handa tayo na magpatawad. Hindi yung bagal magpatawad na kahit humihingi na ng tawad, ayaw pa rin magbigay ng patawad. Kahit nagsisisi ng tao, nagpapakita ng pagsisisi, ayaw pa rin nating maniwala na siya ay nagsisisi. Hindi natin makikita because we are not quick to discern penitence. Number 4, we should be ready to encourage. And number 5, ready to set the wanderer in the path of holiness. Handang tulungan yung nawawaglit sa daan para maibalik doon sa tamang landas. Yan po. And then, lastly, to stay his feet therein. Kapag ang isang nagwawander doon sa tamang daan, humihiwalay sa tamang landas, ibalik doon sa tamang landas at panatilihin sa tamang landas. So yan po yung 6 na gusto ng Diyos na matutunan natin dito sa ating lesson. Okay, number 1 subtopic, a trap for Jesus. Ano naman kaya itong trap for Jesus? At sino naman ang naghanda sa trap na ito? Question, while Jesus was teaching in the temple, what did the scribes and Pharisees do? Ito ang pag-aaralan natin based sa chapter 8 ng John. So, huwag tayong kukuha ng sagot doon sa chapter 7 kasi tapos na yun na pinag-aralan natin. Merong ginawa yung mga scribes and Pharisees doon, pero hindi yon yung isasagot natin dito sa tanong na ito, kundi yung nakasulat dito sa chapter 8. Verse 2 and 3, ganito ang mababasa. And early in the morning, he came again into the temple, and all the people came unto him, and he sat down and taught them. And the scribes and Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery, and when they had set her in the midst. So, yung event na pinag-uusapan dito sa chapter 8 ay yung pangyayari doon sa templo nung nangangaral si Jesus. Anong araw na yon? Sabi dito, early in the morning, he came again into the temple. This was after the Feast of Tabernacle. Kasi yung sa chapter 7, alam natin na natapos na. Yung event doon na na-record was the event that took place on the last day of the feast. So, natapos na yon yung last day of the feast. And then, on the following day, Jesus came again to the temple. Nagturo si Jesus doon sa temple in the midst of the feast. And then, on the last day of the feast, nandun pa rin siya sa temple. Nakikipag-aralan pa rin sa mga tao. Ngayon, after the Feast of Tabernacle, bumalik uli siya doon sa temple at nagturo na naman siya doon. Ano ang ginawa ng mga scribes and Pharisees? Nagdala sila ng isang babae, supposedly na siya ay nahuli na gumawa ng pangangalunya. Sa comment, sabi dito, Christ was soon interrupted. Sinong nag-interrupt sa kanila? yung mga scribes and Pharisees. A group of scribes and Pharisees approached him, dragging with them a terror-stricken woman, whom with hard, eager voices they accused of having violated the seventh commandment. Nadisturbo si Jesus dun sa kanyang pangangaral dahil doon sa ginawa nitong mga scribes and Pharisees. Showing great apparent respect for the law, what question did the Pharisees put to Christ? And what was the real intention? Verse 4 and 5 and 6. They say unto him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. Ibig sabihin, caught in action, itong babae. Now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what sayest thou? This they said, tempting him that they might have to accuse him. But Jesus stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground as though he heard them not. So, ito pala yung trap na sinasabi sa ating lesson. Ano yun? Ayon sa batas ni Moses, yung tao na caught in the act of adultery, dapat na batuhin hanggang sa mamatay. Ngayon, ano ang masasabi mo? Tinatanong nila yon kasi gusto nila na makakuha ng reason na kung magkamali si Jesus sa kanyang isasagot, is gagawin nila yon na rason para siya ay i-condemn. Di ba yung previously, they were plotting to kill him. They were plotting to arrest him. Pero hindi nila na-aresto. Dahil yung mga officers na sinugo nila para arestuhin siya, hindi naman nila ginawa yon. Dahil na-appreciate pa nga nila yung pangangaral ni Jesus Christ. So hindi sila nag-take action. Ngayon, itong mga Pharisees gumawa ng another trap para hulihin sana si Jesus at parusahan. Ano naman ang reaction ni Jesus doon sa tanong nila? Silent si Jesus. Ang lesson sa atin dito, there are times when silence is eloquence. Yan, maganda talaga yon. Ito ang isang instance na si Jesus ay tinatanong pero inignore niya yung tanong. Hindi lang naman dito maraming beses na may mga nagtatanong, previously pinag-aralan natin, may tanong din yung mga Pharisees, may objection sa kanya, you have a devil, pero inignore ni Jesus yung accusation na yun, hindi niya sinagot. Dito naman, sabi na, ano ang masasabi mo dito? Sabi ni Moses, dapat batuhin ang mga nagkasala ng ganito hanggang mamatay. Ikaw naman, anong masasabi mo? They were tempting him, pero si Jesus, hindi rin siya sumagot. Ang ginawa niya, nagsulat doon sa ground. Inignore niya na parang hindi niya narinig yung sinasabi ng mga scribes and Pharisees. Sa Desire of Ages 460, their pretended reverence veiled a deep-laid plot for his ruin. Nagpapanggap yung mga Pharisees na kunwari, sila po ay tagapagtanggol ng kautusan at tagasunod ng kautusan. But actually, they are laying their trap to ruin Jesus. They had seized upon this opportunity to secure his condemnation, thinking that whatever decision he might make, they would find occasion to accuse him. Should he acquit the woman, he might be charged with despising the law of Moses. Should he declare him worthy of death, he could be accused to the Romans as one who was assuming authority that belonged only to them. So ito pala, kaya ito ay tinatawag na trap. Parang either way, ano man ang isasagot ni Jesus doon sa kanilang katanungan, ay mapapahamak siya. Kung halimbawa, i-acquit niya, patawarin niya yung babae, they will accuse him of despising the law of Moses. Pero kapag ang sagot niya ay i-condemn siya at papatayin, isusumbong naman siya doon sa mga Roman authorities. Bakit? Because at that point in time, they are not an independent nation under the rule of the Roman Empire. At ang Roman Empire, hindi nagbigay sa kanila ng authority to judge and condemn anybody. Yung role na yon belongs to the Romans. Kaya kung si Jesus ay i-condemn niya at ipapapatay niya, lagot siya sa batas ng mga Romano. Ayan. So topic number 2, the real picture unveiled. Ano itong tinutukoy na real picture unveiled? Nabuksan, na-expose yung tunay na larawan, yung tunay na pangyari na expose. yung accusation nila against the woman. Totoo ba na siya ay caught in the act of adultery? Kung totoo na he was caught in the very act, sino ngayon ang nagmaniobra doon? Sino ang nag-orchestrate? Sino ang nagpanukala na ganon ang mangyayari? How did Jesus respond to the Pharisees' falsehood? Basahin natin dyan, verse 8. This they said, tempting him that they might have to accuse him. But Jesus stooped down with his finger, wrote on the ground. Yung commentary dito ay ganito. Jesus looked for a moment upon the scene, the trembling victim in her shame, the hard-faced dignitaries, devoid of human pity. His spirit of stainless purity shrunk from the spectacle. Well, he knew for what purpose this case had been brought to him. He read the heart and knew the character and life history of everyone in his presence. These would-be guardians of justice had themselves laid their victim into sin, that they might lay a snare for Jesus. Giving no sign that he had heard their question, he stooped and fixing his eyes upon the ground, began to write in the dust. Nalaman pala ni Jesus ang totoong pangyayari. Nabasa niya ang kanilang puso. Sila din pala, itong mga scribes and Pharisees, sila din pala yung gumawa ng paraan na itong babae na ito ay magkasala. Kagagawan pala nila yun. Para gagamitin yon to trap Jesus. Parang ginagawa nila na scapegoat o isinacrifice nila. Dalawang tao ang isinacrifice nila, yung babae at saka yung lalaki. Gumawa sila ng paraan na mangyari yung adultery na yun. Pero nalaman ni Jesus yun na that was orchestrated by the scribes and Pharisees to trap him. So how did Jesus show that the accusers themselves were not without sin? And what did they then do? Basahin natin. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, He that is without sin among you, let him first cast out a stone at her. And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. And they which heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the least, even unto the last. And Jesus was left alone, and the woman is standing in the midst. Ayan po ang nangyari. Hindi niya directly na sinagot, pero ang sabi niya sa kanila, sino mang walang kasalanan sa inyo, siya ang unang babato dito sa babae. Siya ang unang mag-render ng punishment dito sa babae na sinasabi niyo na caught in the actual act of adultery. Pero ang resulta nun, pagkatapos na sinabi niya yon, yumuko na naman siya at saka pinagpatuloy niya ng nagsulat doon sa dust of the ground. Ang resulta doon sa kanyang aksyon, nakonsensya yung mga tao. Kaya itong mga grupo na ito, sila yung nag-usap-usap panukala nila ito. Nakonsensya sila, tapos isa-isa na umalis. Hanggang wala nang natira na sa mga accusers. Si Jesus na lang at saka yung babae. The accusers had been defeated. Oh, natalo pala. Now the robe of pretended holiness torn from them. Yung kanilang pretended holiness ay naalis na yon. They stood guilty and condemned in the presence of infinite purity. They trembled lest the hidden iniquity of their lives should be laid open to the multitude. And one by one, with bowed heads and downcast eyes, they stole away, leaving their victim with the pitying Savior. Bakit kaya yon sinasabi dito na they trembled lest the hidden iniquity of their lives should be laid open to the multitude? Nakonsensya sila na sila pala ang may nagkasala. Kung may kasalanan man yung babae, victim siya. Ang nagplano dito, pangyayari na ito, sila pala. Ngayon, nakonsensya sila, ayaw nila na ma-expose yung kanilang kamalian, kaya umalis sila. Next, sabi dito sa question C, in general, what should we all learn from the words of Jesus to the accusers? So ano ngayon ang matutuntunan natin dito sa salita ni Jesus sa kanyang mga accusers? Luke 6 verse 42. Either how canst thou say to thy brother, Brother, let me pull out the mote that is in thine eye, when thou thyself beholdest not the beam that is in thine own eye. Thou hypocrite, cast out first the beam out of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to pull out the mote that is in thine brother's eye. Ayun pala. So, ito ang matututunan natin na importanteng lesson. Ito ang senaryo. Si A, meron siyang mas mabigat na kasalanan. Si B, meron ding kasalanan pero mas magaan kaysa kasalanan ni A. Pero si A na mas merong mabigat na kasalanan, patago, hindi open. Ito naman, hindi na itago. Yung maliit na kasalanan, hindi na itago. So, nadiscover. Ito naman na si A, nagtangka siya na i-correct o sawayin yung kasalanan ni B. Samantalang siya naman ay alam niya na meron siyang mas mabigat na kasalanan. Yan po yung senaryo dito. Kaya sinaway ni Jesus yung ganitong action. Ito si B na mas malaking kasalanan, parang lumalabas na wala siyang karapatan na punahin yung isang tao na merong kasalanan pero mas maliit. Paano i-compare ni Jesus ito? So sa application nito, itong pinupuna ng mga scribe and Pharisees na merong puling sa kanyang mata, pagpalagay natin si si Mary. Sila, meron din silang puling pero mas malaki na puling. Ang tawag dito is beam, troso. Ang sabi nga nila doon sa ibang doon. Mas malaki pa yung kasalanan nila pero nagpapanggap sila na sila ay matuwid at itong si Mary ang masama. Nahiya na lang sila kaya umalis lest madiscover, ma-expose na sila pala ay merong mas malaking kasalanan kaysa yung inaakusahan nila. Kaya yun ang lesson sa atin. Mag-ingat tayo, baka yung ating pinupuna na may kasalanan, sinasabi na dating masama, ay pala, yung kasalanan niya ay mas maliit kaysa yung kasalanan natin mismo. There are those who are premature in their desire to reform things that to them appear faulty. They think that they should be chosen to take the place of those who have made mistakes. They undervalue what these workers have done while others were looking on and criticizing. By their action, they say, I can do great things. I can carry the work forward successfully. To those who think they know so well how to avoid mistakes, I am instructed to say, judge not, that ye be not judged. Matthew 7 verse 1. You might avoid mistakes on some points, but on other things, you are liable to make grave blunders, which would be very difficult to remedy and which would bring confusion into the work. These mistakes might do more harm than those your brethren have made. Babala itong sinasabi ng salita ng Diyos dito sa atin, no? Na nasa loob ng church, lalo na sa mga leaders, na kung minsan may nakikita sila na kahinaan ng kanilang kasama, sila may kahinaan din, pero hindi nila pinapansin yung kahinaan nila and they are quick to criticize others. Nasasamla, ay hindi siya karapat-dapat sa position na yan. Kung ako ang ilagay nyo dyan, I can do more than him. Kasi siya ganito-ganito, marami siyang mga pagkukulang, kahinaan. Ay mag-ingat daw, huwag tayo na magiging critical sa ating kapwa. Baka mamaya, yung mistake niya ay mas maliit, yung mistake mo mas malaki. Maaring yung kahinaan mo, pagkukulang mo ay hindi doon sa punto ng pagkukulang ng isa, pero meron din kang pagkukulang na kung timbangin, baka mas mabigat pa yun at mas nakakaperwiso pa sa gawain. Yun po yung lesson dito na tinuturo ng Panginoon sa atin na dapat nating iwasan. Okay, next, an unexpected action. So tapos na tayo dito sa the real picture unveiled. Ano yung real na picture na unveiled? Yung picture ng mga scribes and Pharisees and the woman. Na ito pala ang kinalalabasan, ito palang babae, totoong may kasalanan pero kung tutuusin mas magaan kaysa yung kasalanan ng mga scribes and Pharisees. Sila pala ang nagpanukala doon sa pangyayari na yon. What question did Jesus ask the woman after her accusers left? And how was his way of handling the situation to affect her life? John 8 verse 10 and 11. When Jesus had lifted up himself and saw none but the woman, he said unto her, Woman, where are those thine accusers? Nasaan yung mga nag-aakusa sa iyo? Yan ang tanong ni Jesus sa babae. Hath no man condemned thee? Wala bang naghatol sa iyo? She said, No man, Lord. Wala, Panginoon. Ang sagot niya. And Jesus said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. So yan po ang nagiging attitude ni Jesus dito sa isang babae na nahuli sa aktual na kasalanan ng pangangalo niya laban sa 7th commandment. Pinatawad niya yung babae at sinabing hindi niya kinondena, kinaawaan niya at sinabi niya, Go and sin no more. Basahin natin. The woman had stood before Jesus, cowering with fear. His words, He that is without sin among you, let him first cast out a stone, had come to her as a death sentence. Parang nasentensyahan na siya, pakiwari ng babae. She dared not lift her eyes to the Savior's face, but silently awaited her doom. In astonishment, she saw her accusers depart speechless and confounded. Then those words of hope fell upon her ear. Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. Her heart was melted, and casting herself at the feet of Jesus, she sobbed out her grateful love, and with bitter tears confessed her sins. This was to her the beginning of a new life, a life of purity and peace, devoted to God. In the uplifting of this fallen soul, Jesus performed a greater miracle than in the healing of the most grievous physical disease. He cured the spiritual malady which is unto death everlasting. This penitent woman became one of his most steadfast followers. With self-sacrificing love and devotion, she showed her gratitude for his forgiving mercy. For this erring woman, the world had only contempt and scorn, but the sinless one pitied her weakness, and reached to her a helping hand. While the hypocritical Pharisees denounced, Jesus bade her, Go and sin no more. Yan, nakasulat ito sa Ministry of Healing, page 89. In his act of pardoning this woman and encouraging her to live a better life, the character of Jesus shines forth in the beauty of perfect righteousness. While he does not palliate sin, nor lessen the sense of guilt, he seeks not to condemn, but to save. The world had for this erring woman only contempt and scorn, but Jesus speaks words of comfort and hope. Ayan po. Ganyan ang pagtrato ni Jesus sa mga taong nagkakasala. He is ready to forgive, and he is keen to discern, quick to discern penitence. Nakita niya yung pagsisisi ng babae. Anong nakatulong doon sa pagsisisi ng babae? Yung pagpapakita ni Jesus ng pagmamahal at awa. Hindi pa nga siya nagsisi. Anong sabi niya? Pinatawad na siya ni Jesus. Yung kabaitan ni Jesus na ipinakita niya sa kanya, yon ang nagpalalim ng kanyang pagsisisi. Yon. Kaya nga ang Biblia nagsabi, it is the goodness of God that leadeth a man to true repentance. Kaya yan po, isang lesson para sa atin, tularan natin si Jesus. Kaya lang, huwag din nating abusuhin ito. May mga tao ngayon na nagpapanukala dahil dito sa treatment ni Jesus dito sa babae, they go to the extent of thinking na dapat wala ng disiplina at wala ng disfellowshipment na mangyayari daw. Sa church ay hindi naman po tama yun. Dapat daw patawarin. Okay, papatawarin. Ibahin po natin yung pagpapatawad at saka yung pag-apply ng disiplina. Meron pong patakaran ang Panginoon doon sa mga members ng church. Pag pinatawad mo yung tao, hindi ibig sabihin na hindi mo siya didisiplinahin. Ibahin po natin yon. Dapat sabay na gagawin yon. Dapat na ready tayo na magpatawad sa nagkasala. So the church must be ready to forgive yung nagkasala. But at the same time, dapat may apply pa rin yung church discipline. Huwag nating i-confuse yun. Mali po yun. Yung sasabi na papatawarin, wala nang disiplina, wala nang disfellowshipment. Kasi pag pinapalabas nila na pag dinisiplina mo, dinisfellowship mo, parang hindi mo siya pinatawad. Wrong. Hindi po ganun. Kagaya lang ni Adan at Eva. Noong bang pinalayas ng Panginoon si Adam and Eve doon sa Garden of Eden na tahanan nila. At pinabantay na yung Tree of Life na hindi sila makalapit dahil may bantay na anghel. Yon ba ibig sabihin na hindi niya pinatawad sina Adan at Eva? Hindi. Pinatawad niya. Pero at the same time, pinalabas niya sila doon sa garden at binantayan sila na huwag kakain doon sa Tree of Life. So, ganun din ang dapat gawin ng church. Panatilihin pa rin na merong disiplina, may disfellowshipment doon sa mga open sinners, pero i-extend pa rin sa kanila yung pagpapatawad. Kaya nga, binibigyan ang lahat ng mga na-disfellowship ng pagkakataon na kapag sila'y nagsisi po, pinatawad sila, pag sila'y nagsisi, pwede silang maibalik. Kasi kung hindi pinapatawad, hindi yun ibabalik. Pero bakit ibinabalik pa rin sila pag sila ay nagpahayag ng clear evidence na sila ay nagsisisi? They will be admitted back into the church. That shows that the church has extended forgiveness to them. Katulad din ng Panginoon. Okay? Yan po ang lesson na matututunan natin dito, mga kapatid. Huwag nating abusuhin, huwag nating gamitin itong ginawa ni Jesus na pagpapatawad sa babae as a reason na huwag nang ma-practice yung church discipline and disfellowshipment because that is another issue. Okay, next dito sa B, describe the effect of Christ's saving grace. Ano ang nagiging epekto ng biyaya ng Panginoon? Mapagligtas na biyaya ng Panginoon. And behold, a woman in the city which was a sinner, when she knew that Jesus sat at meat in the Pharisee's house, brought an alabaster box of ointment, and stood at his feet behind him, weeping, and began to wash his feet with tears, and did wipe them with the hairs of her head, and kissed her feet, and anointed them with the ointment. Now when the Pharisees which had bidden him saw it, he spake within himself, saying, This man, if he were a prophet, would have known who and what manner of woman this is that toucheth him, for she is a sinner. And Jesus answering said unto him, Simon, I have somewhat to say unto thee. And he said, Master, say on. Wherefore I say unto thee, her sins, which are many, are forgiven, for she loved much. But to whom little is forgiven, the same loveth little. And he said unto her, Thy sins are forgiven. Dito sa commentary ng Ministry of Healing, page 89 and 90, Jesus knows the circumstances of every soul. The greater the sinner's guilt, the more he needs the Savior. His heart of divine love and sympathy is drawn out most of all for the one who is the most hopelessly entangled in the snares of the enemy. With his own blood, he has signed the emancipation papers of the race. So, ang tanong dito, describe the effect of Christ's saving grace. Ang epekto dito sa karanasan ng isang babae, siya po ay nagbagong buhay. Dahil siya po ay pinatawad, natuto na mahalin niya si Jesus. So, ito pala, lumalabas dito, kung makikita natin, na itong babae na caught in adultery, na pinatawad ni Jesus. Siya yung babae na noong si Jesus ay nandun sa bahay ng isang Pharisee na ang pangalan ay si Simon. Dumating siya and as an expression of his thankfulness doon sa forgiveness na natanggap niya at yung nadama niya na pagmamahal doon kay Kristo na nagligtas sa kanya, siya ay nagdala ng isang mamahalin na pabango na binili niya ng malaking halaga tapos ibinuhos niya kay Jesus. Hindi siya nagdadalawang isip, hindi siya nagiging kuripot, kundi pinakita niya yung kanyang dakilang pagmamahal kay Jesus na unang nagpakita ng pagmamahal sa kanya. Kaya sabi ni Christ, "Wherefore I say unto thee, her sins, which are many, are forgiven. For she loved much, but to whom little is forgiven, the same loveth little." Ibig sabihin, yung tao na gumawa ng malaking kasalanan, tapos pinatawad ng Diyos, siya ang magmamahal ng malaki din sa Diyos. Yung kaunti ang kasalanan na pinatawad, yung response niya, kaunti din yung pagmamahal na maipapahayag na kay Kristo. Pero babala na naman dito, huwag nating interpret ito na upang tayo po ay lalaki yung ating pagmamahal kay Kristo, ay damihan natin, sadyain natin na damihan ang kasalanan at humingi ng tawad para pagkatapos na tayo mapatawad ng marami nating kasalanan, ay lalaki ang ating pag-ibig kay Kristo. That is not the case. Yung sinasadya na ganun yun, mali. Dahil niisip mo na kapag ikaw ay napatawad ay may increase, lalaki din ang pagmamahal mo kay Kristo. That would be presumption. Hindi na pananampalataya yun, kundi presumption na yun. So, don't ever think that way. Okay, dito sa comment, Jesus knows the circumstances of every soul. The greater the sinner's guilt, the more he needs the Savior. Kaya ito din ang lesson sa atin. Pag po tayo nahulog sa kasalanan, na gumawa ng malaking kasalanan, sa halip na gamitin natin yun na reason para mas lalo tayong lumayo sa Diyos, dapat yun po ang reason natin para mas lumapit kay Jesus. Kasi mas kailangan natin, lalo nating kailangan si Kristo sa ating buhay kapag malaki na ang ating kasalanan. Yon po yung lesson dito. Okay, dito tayo sa lesson number 4. Comfort is spread abroad. What is to characterize our attitude, especially in relation to others? And how only is this possible? 2 Corinthians 1 verse 3 to 5. Blessed be God, even the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and the God of all comfort, who comforted us in all our tribulation, that we may be able to comfort them which are in any trouble, by the comfort wherewith we ourselves are comforted of God. For as the sufferings of Christ abound in us, so our consolation also abounded by Christ. Circumstances have but little to do with the experience of the soul. It is the spirit cherished which gives coloring to all our actions. A man at peace with God and his fellow men cannot be made miserable. Envy will not be in his heart. Evil surmising will find no room there. Hatred cannot exist. The heart in harmony with God is lifted above the annoyances and trials of this life. It was through suffering that Jesus obtained the ministry of consolation. In all the affliction of humanity, he is afflicted, and in that he himself had suffered being tempted, he is able to succor them that are tempted. In this ministry, every soul that has entered into the fellowship of his sufferings is privileged to share. So ano po yung lesson na matututunan natin dito sa ating binasa sa 2 Corinthians at saka sa Testimonies Volume 5 at saka Thought from the Mount of Blessing. Ganito po ang pinaka-gist, pinaka-summary ng lesson dito. Kung papaano na ang Diyos ay naawa sa atin, naranasan natin ang awa ng Panginoon, dapat din matuto din na tayo na maawa sa ating kapwa. Kung papaano ang Diyos ay pinatawad tayo ng ating mga kasalanan, pag meron din pong mga taong nagkasala sa atin, dapat po na patawarin din natin sila. Matuto din na tayo na magpatawad din sa kanilang mga kasalanan. Yun ang punto dito sa 2 Corinthians 1 verse 3, 4, and 5, sabi dito. Who comfort us in all our tribulation. So tayo may tribulation, kinumfort tayo ng Panginoon. That we may be able to comfort them which are in any trouble. So, yun ang gusto ng Panginoon na matutunan natin. Pinakitaan tayo ng awa para matuto tayo na magpakita din ng awa sa kapwa. Napakahalaga po yun. Okay, dadat ko tayo dito sa sunod. Ito po yung tinatawag na privilege and hope of following in the footstep of Christ. Describe the quality most needed among believers in the three angels' message. Dito naman tayo sa three angels' message. Ano daw po ang quality na mas kinakailangan natin bilang believers ng three angels' message? 1 Corinthians 13:13. And now abideth faith, hope, charity. These three, but the greatest of these is charity. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not charity, I am become a sounding brass or a tingling cymbal. Verse 4, charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up, doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, rejoice not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Charity never faileth. But whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. Yan po mga kapatid. Ito yung quality na kailangan natin bilang mga believers of the third angel's message. Anong quality ito? Faith, hope, and love. Na magkaroon tayo ng panampalataya, magkaroon tayo ng matibay na pag-asa, at magkaroon tayo ng pag-ibig na kagaya ng pag-ibig ng Diyos na naisalarawan dito. Yan po. The characteristics most needed to be cherished by God's commandment-keeping people are, ano yun? Patience and long-suffering, peace and love. When love is lacking, irretrievable loss is sustained. So ano yung apat na quality na kailangan po natin as believers of the third angel's message? Number 1, patience. Number 2, long suffering. Number 3, peace. Number 4, love, yung charity na sinasabi. Pag wala na itong mga bagay na ito, ang sabi dito, when love is lacking, irretrievable loss is sustained. Malaking kawalan ang mawawala sa atin kung wala tayong pag-ibig. Last subtopic, tender restoration. How will true believers act if a Christian falls into sin? Kagaya nung babae na yon na caught in adultery. In contrast to what false-hearted believers often do. Galatians 6 verse 1 to 3. Brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such an one in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. Bear ye one another's burden, and so fulfill the law of Christ. For if a man think himself to be something, when he is nothing, he deceiveth himself. So ano daw po yung good attitude ng isang true Christians towards those who fall into sin? Ayon dito, ye which are spiritual, restore such an one in the spirit of meekness. O, gagawa ng effort para ma-recover sila. And again, klaruhin natin ito dahil merong false conception na lumalabas dito sa mundo ngayon. Na yung effort na pag sinabi na restore such an one in the spirit of meekness, some people think na don't take any disciplinary action against the person. Hindi po yun. Hindi tama yun. Yung taking disciplinary action against a brother, yun ay isang way of restoring them. Tandaan po natin yan. Work of restoration pa rin yun. Kaya nga ang payo na pagkatapos na halimbawa natiwalag ang isang tao dahil caught in adultery, you still have to work with that person to find para siya makapagsisi at mapatawad at ma-restore siya ang kanyang membership. So, yan po mga kapatid ang dapat na gawin. Hindi yung basta i-ignore mo na lang na walang disciplinary action. Basahin natin dito Romans 15 verse 1 to 3. We then that are strong ought to bear the infirmities of the weak and not to please ourselves. Let every one of us please his neighbor for his good to edification. For even Christ pleased not himself, but as it is written, the reproaches of them that reproach thee fell on me. So gagawa pa rin tayo ng way na ma-restore yung ating neighbor. Bear the infirmities of the weak and not to please ourselves. Basahin natin yung Testimonies Volume 6, page 398 and 399. Bear in mind that the work of restoring is to be our burden. Ayun. We have to take effort to restore those who have fallen into sin. This work is not to be done in a proud, officious, masterly way. Do not stay by your manner. I have the power and I will use it, and pour out accusations upon the erring one. Do your restoring in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. The work set before us to do for our brethren is not to cast them aside, not to press them into discouragement or despair by saying, you have disappointed me, and I will not try to help you. He who sets himself up as full of wisdom and strength and bears down upon one who is oppressed and distressed and longing for help manifests the spirit of the Pharisees and wraps himself about with the robe of his own self-constituted dignity. In this spirit, he thanks God that he is not as other men are, and suppose that his course is praiseworthy, and that he is too strong to be tempted. But if a man think himself to be something, when he is nothing, he deceiveth himself. It is not Christ's followers that, with averted eyes, turns from the erring, leaving them unhindered to pursue their downward course. Those who are forward in accusing others and zealous in bringing them to justice are often in their own lives more guilty than they. Men hate the sinner while they love the sin. Christ hates the sin but loves the sinner. This will be the spirit of all who follow him. Christian love is slow to censure, quick to discern penitence, ready to forgive, to encourage, to set the wanderer in the path of holiness, and to stay his feet therein. Ayan po mga kapatid, ang dapat na attitude na ipapakita natin towards those who have fallen into sin. So, nasagot na yung how will true believers act if a Christian fall into sin. They should make every effort to restore them back to their faithfulness to God, to the service of God. At they should be slow to censure and quick to discern penitence. In contrast to what false-hearted believers often do, yung mga false-hearted believers often do, they wanted justice. Justice daw without mercy. Pero dapat mag-combine justice and mercy. Iyon po ang pamamaraan ng Panginoon. Sa Bible sabi, justice and mercy kiss each other. So there should be justice and mercy na maipakita. Hindi puro justice, walang mercy. Hindi rin tama yung puro mercy, wala ding justice. Pag merong justice, ibig sabihin ay merong karampatang pananagutan. May karampatang pananagutan. So, bagamat pinapatawad yung kasalanan, yung tao na nagkasala, pero yung consequence ng kasalanan niya, kung meron siyang responsibility na dapat gawin, dapat gampanan pa rin niya. Ayan, di ba? Pero tutulungan siya. Kaya ako nga'y natutuwa doon sa decision ng ating mga leadership na kapag meron pong mga workers na nagkasala, didisiplinahin, let's say 3 months na suspendido sa trabaho, ay dapat hindi basta suspendihin, hindi siswelduhan, pagkatapos pabayaan na lang na maghirap for 3 months or for 6 months. Hindi tama yun. Dapat may justice. Kung kailangan madisiplina, suspendihin. Pero paano ipapakita ang mercy? May mercy pa rin. Kaya maalala ko na ang ginagawa ng church natin is yung mercy doon, dahil wala ng sweldo, paano na yung pagkain, bibigyan ng supply na bigas. Buwan-buwan, bibigyan ng bigas. Para makakain pa rin siya. Wala nga lang siyang sweldo, pero at least siguradong may makakain, hindi siya magugutom. So, may justice, merong mercy. Ganun po yon ang dapat na gagawin. At yun ang tama. There should be a balance between justice and mercy. Okay, so this is the end of our lesson. For emphasis, balikan natin. Ano yung mga 6 na qualities na dapat na makita sa atin na believers ng third angel's message? Sabi dito, we should be slow to censure. Yan, number 1, ha? Slow to censure. Number 2, quick to discern penitence. Number 3, ready to forgive. Number 4, ready to encourage. Number 5, ready to set the wanderer in the path of holiness, na yung may effort ka talaga na i-restore mo siya, ibalik mo siya. Kung siya ay lumilihis, ibalik mo siya. Then number 6, ready to stay his feet therein, doon sa tamang landas. With this lesson, we will end our discussion of this week's Sabbath School lesson. Thank you very much. See you next week.